Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news out of Monticello, Indiana, where Indiana Beach has declared that they are building a new ride. Not only one new ride, but two new rides. So the first one is the lesser of the two stories, and that is the Polyp. That is a flat ride. Is it called Polyp? I don't even know how to pronounce it. I think it's Polyp. Sure, why not? It's an old ride from Kittyland, which kind of surprises me because anyone knows the history of Chicago, history of Kittyland. That park closed a number of years ago. Great America saved the Little Dipper from Kittyland. I wasn't even aware that there were more rides left still out there from Kittyland. I know Santa's Village took a few, I believe, from Kittyland. I won't swear to that though. And, they've been, parsed out over a number of different parks, but I didn't even know there were any still floating out there, but Indiana Beach is saving that one. But
and Kittyland is not one of the places that I'm very familiar with either. I mean, I know a lot about some of these closed down parks and these older parks that aren't around anymore, but Kittyland is one of those that you just never hear mentioned really outside of the context of Little Dipper. But that's not the big news, Andy.
That's not the big news, and not a lot of people know about Kittyland because Big Dipper was like the biggest ride that they had. They had a whole lot of classic stuff.
Well, it's like Little America with their little wood coaster, the Meteor, which is basically the Woodstock Express clone.
Exactly. Basically. So, but the big news is that Indiana Beach is obtaining the Chimera roller coaster from La Feria in Mexico City. And Chimera is a Schwarzkopf looper. How many loops does this one have? 4?
Yes, yeah. So it's gone through a couple names. It was first, I think it was Montaña. So Montaña Rusa is like Spanish for roller coaster because it means mountain rush, right? So it was Montaña Triple Loop, and then Montaña Infinitum, and then most recently for a few years it was Chimera. Which is some sort of RCDB, I think, has like the etymology of what Chimera actually means. But it's the drier looping model. So if you're familiar with the Schwarzkopf, drier looping is 3 because it's got 3 loops. So we all know that these very compact Schwarzkopfs, there's quite a number of them out there. Laser at Dorney Park, which is now a Teststrecke on the German fair circuit, is one of the doppel looping models, which is double looping. Dryer looping is 3 loops. Olympia looping is the 5 loops. And then there's been some other ones out there. The Texas Tornado, which was at Astro World, which then became Zonga for a few years at Discovery Kingdom. Probably best known as Thriller on the German fair circuit. I mean, they're all that same style ride where they're the very compact Schwarzkopf portable rides, and they just have different number of loops. And this one, whatever it's going to be called when it opens at Indiana Beach, they said they haven't settled on a name, is the triple loop version. So it's very similar looking to an Olympia looping or a Thriller, a Texas Tornado. It's just got 3 loops. So it is fairly compact. I mean, I will say the pictures of these types of rides don't do it justice with how compact they actually are, because Olympia looping takes up a very small footprint. It's something like 85 feet wide and then like 200 and some odd feet long. I mean, it doesn't take up a very large plot of land at all. So for Indiana Beach, I think it could easily fit somewhere, whether it's in a parking lot or on the edge of a parking lot. I think there's a space between Steel Hog and the main road that's kind of nestled back behind where the Dragon Wagon was for a few years, kind of behind where the Tiger and Cornball line is. There's some space back there that I think people are speculating at here. So they're getting this big ass Schwarzkopf looper.
Well, and the thing about it is like, this is one that a lot of people used to talk about. Being at La Feria, people said, oh, this is one of the better Schwarzkopfs out there. People might have ridden the double loop at Lagoon, possibly.
Yeah, that's another one, like Colossus the Fire Dragon at Lagoon. That is another doppel looping model. I think it's a little bit different than laser. I think Colossus I think has the extra helix. There's two versions of the doppel looping model where there's one with an extra helix. I think Colossus has the extra helix and laser does not. I think Shockwave and Mindbender are technically considered doppel loopings because they have two loops. But as far as the compact ones go, I mean
Yeah,
the Scorpion at Busch Gardens Tampa is your
yeah.
Silver Arrow, which is the smaller version of the single loop, and then I think Silver Bullet at Frontier City is the Looping Star model, which is the larger version of the single loop. So you know they come in all different shapes and sizes as to how many loops they have, but they all follow the general path here. You go through a bunch of loops, you go through a bunch of helixes, and they're really intense and whatnot.
Well, and you know the thing about it is too is like we're naming all of them, and there's a handful of them in America still, but you know when you look at Indiana Beach, what's interesting now is they're going to be one of the few parks that has two Schwarzkopfs there. That they have Tiger, and now they're going to add in this new triple loop. The only other park that I know that has two is probably Lagoon, right, where they still have Colossus and Jetstar. Are there any other parks in America at least that have two Schwarzkopfs?
Hmm.
I'm
Well,
trying.
I mean, what Schwarzkopfs are still around? I mean, you've got Mindbender, you've got
Yeah, there's not a
um,
whole lot of these out there.
Revolution. Great America has Wizard,
Wizard,
the Speed Racer, but they don't have another one, right?
no.
Um, a lot of parks opted for arrows when they were doing their looping coasters in the 80s. Schwarzkopf was probably not as widespread because they were really into the more portable rides over in the fair circuit at the time. You know, a lot of them have even moved on. You know, like we talked about, Texas Tornado went back to the fair circuit, Laser went back to the fair circuit. Um, I don't know. I'm not particular familiar with this model in particular, having never been to the parks in Mexico. I don't know if this one is designed to be portable, just like all the others are, like the Olympia looping and like Laser was definitely portable. It was weighted down by it's weighted down by water inside the base pieces there. Um, and I know that the Mindbender at Galaxyland up at the West Edmonton Mall is sort of in the same vein here, but that one's very much permanent. Um, and always was intended to be a permanent installation. But there was a number of these types of rides built, in the mid to late 80s. I think Olympia Looping actually didn't open until 1989. I believe they began work on it on 85, but it didn't officially debut until 89 because I believe we wrote it during its 30th anniversary year. Um, so these are all mid to late 80s rides that we're talking about here, but they're gonna do a full refurbishment of it. Obviously, many people already know that this is the one that had the incident just a year or two ago down at La Feria, which I don't think it reopened after that,
No.
where there was at least one death, correct, on the
Yeah,
incident.
I think it was one or two different people died on that one. And that was when the train basically derailed, broke apart. So there's talk of, I've talked to some people from the park, or some people who know the park well, and there is talk of them doing completely new trains on this. Now, obviously, you know, refurbishing the old Schwarzkopf trains are difficult to do simply because the lack of parts. We know Hershey Park went with Gerslauer, was it?
Yeah, so a few years ago when they did it's actually many years ago now, but quite a few years ago, it was probably like 6 or 8 years ago at this point, when they refurbished Super Duper Looper, they went with Gerslauer trains, which are quite comfortable and they keep the whole lap bar only thing. Someone would know better than me if Chimera had the shoulder harnesses or not that Olympia Looping has. They're not uncomfortable, at least not for me, but I'm shorter. If you are a taller person, those shoulder harnesses are not as comfortable. I know Josh and Chris are taller folks, and they were not a fan of the shoulder harnesses. However, I know Chris really liked the ride. Josh didn't so much. The shoulder harnesses are okay. there's not really a ton of airtime except maybe on the first drop. So I'd have to think this is similar, but someone may know better than me. I get the sense that you're looking right now and trying
Yeah.
to figure this out at the moment. But I know that when so the Mindbender at Galaxyland at the West Edmonton Mall had a similar incident years and years ago, many, many years ago, where there was a derailment of one of the cars and it hit one of the concrete pillars that holds up one of the loops, I believe. And ever since then, I believe the Mindbender now runs all front cars. So they've shortened the train. So if you know the old Schwarzkopf trains, you've got the one that's got sort of the nose on the front, and then it's trailered in the back, so that there's only a set of rear wheels, and the front of the train hooks to the back of the front car, and then it just has rear wheels, and then it goes all the way back. So the everything after the first car doesn't have four sets of wheels. It just has the two in the rear, so they're like trailers. I imagine this is very similar. So a refurbishment could mean many things. It could mean they do something with Gerschlauer or some other company that could
Well, the
make
other
trains.
company I've heard of that supposedly does stuff like this is a smaller company which may play into Indiana Beach's budget too. It's called Sunkid World. If you go to sunkidworld.com, they do a whole bunch of different trains for Vacomas. It looks like for Arrows. So they could be in the play here as well. And to
Yeah, because if they do, they either going to get all new trains or they're going to do something and try and obtain all front cars and do the same thing that the West Edmonton Mall did. Because I know the Mindbenders had a perfect safety record since that incident, since moving, and they even flipped a few of those trains backwards at some point. You can actually ride the Mindbender backwards, I think, or at least you could. I don't know if you still can, but that's something as well.
and these Chimera trains did have harnesses, not hard restraints, but almost like seatbelt like restraints that went over your shoulders. So
Hmm.
that can't be comfortable. I would much rather see them go with something all new. Whether that and like I know the purists will be like, oh my God, but I'd rather have a good ride experience than have classic Schwarzkopf trains. And Gerschlauer did them right because they look like the classic Schwarzkopf trains on
Yeah,
Gerschlauer.
they do. I
Um,
mean the styling's only slightly different, but in general they look pretty good. Yeah, I'm looking at the Chimera trains now. It looks like
yeah,
well they've got heavy padding, it
they
looks
have
like.
heavy padding on them, and if you go on the website that shall not be named, if you go,
Oh, I already named it too. Whoops.
good job.
Um,
If you go to like picture 31, you can kind of see them. There's a better picture here, and you can kind of see them on all the pictures with people in them. Like 37, you can see that there's some sort of straps on them. But if you go to picture 40, the gentleman in the first red car, you can really see how that works. And I know I've been on a number of the different mini Galaxy models, like Super Cyclone at Santa's Village. They have those seatbelt restraints and they're just not comfortable. They're
yeah,
just
it's
bad.
like you're putting on a backpack and then the lap bar comes down in front of you.
Yeah. It's just not good. So I would much rather see them do any sort of new trains. And it probably makes sense at this point too. It might just be cheaper than trying to refurb old trains that are poor or are maintenance issues already. We've already had one accident here. Why roll the dice? Just get new trains. Because you're probably not talking about buying more than two trains at the most. And you
Yeah.
might even be talking about just buying one train, for a place like Indiana Beach, you might only need one. I'd rather have one good train because does Cornball and them run one or do they run two trains on those wood coasters?
Um, I
Well,
know Hoosier has two. Whether or not it ever runs two is another question. I mean, I think they have the ability to run two.
Cornball has one train. So
Cornball is shorter though, so that doesn't surprise me. I know for a fact that Hoosier has two because it's had a blue one and a red one at different times.
yeah, they have two. So
Um,
so you're at a park that it's not uncommon to have one train ops on stuff.
yeah.
So it would not surprise me. As for the location, I know people are talking about in the back of the park. But these things look really cool, and I'd love for them to find a spot on the boardwalk for this. I don't know the size requirements. You do have that Larson loop up there. You had the old Galaxy coaster up there as well. So they
Yeah,
used to
but
have
didn't they replace that? Didn't they replace that with something?
I don't know if they put like because that's like towards the water park in quotations. I know the
Yeah, I thought they
last
did.
time I thought the last time we were there, it was just open space. That
Okay.
was a couple
Um,
of years ago
I,
though.
I'm on the Olympia Looping website right now to try and get so ground area is 86 and a half meters by 38 and a half meters. So if I do that to feet, 38 and a half meters is 126 feet wide, and then 86 and a half meters is 284 feet wide. So you need a 284 foot long by 127 foot wide.
Which might be somewhat difficult to fit into an area like a boardwalk. I'm trying to look it up on Google Earth right now.
That
Um,
Olympia looping.
I'm trying to look it up on Google Earth right now to see if I can find anything, but it's
Yeah,
not.
I'm looking at the area. I think a lot of people are talking about if you're on Google Maps or Google Earth, people are talking about the area between Steelhog and Cornball there. They're talking about maybe nestling it in there somehow. I don't know if that Arbor Lights Resort is coming out, or maybe if they use one of those parking lots.
Well, see,
Um,
because if you look at the map, um, the area in between the water slides is where they used to have the old Galaxy. So that big open area in the middle used to be the Galaxy.
yeah,
I don't
it
think
will
that would
not
be.
fit there. It
I
will
don't
not
think
fit on
that'd
the
be a
side
good
of a
place for it
Galaxy.
either. And honestly, if it won't fit there, there's not a whole lot of space. Um, Unless you go beyond and take out something like that raft thing and you go and put it next to Lost Coaster Superstition Mountain, you'd have to redesign that whole area over there. Um,
Hmm.
this park does not have a whole lot of space, and that's been the thing since the very beginning with Indiana Beach, is that there's not a whole lot of space. A lot of stuff is jam packed. They've actually done a really good job placing the stuff that they already have. um but if you could find a way to put it like on the edge of that peninsula at the edge of the boardwalk, I think that would be fantastic, because
Yeah.
that's something that people want to see, unless you're going to add land somehow. But
It looks like that Arbor Lights Resort is still around too. So I don't know unless you literally put it. You see where the Dragon Wagon is. I don't think that Dragon Wagon's there anymore unless you sort of nestle it right there and it's behind Cornball, and you face it out some way so that you can see it from the road or something, when you're going across that bridge, on Northwest Schaefer Drive. Um, I guess, I mean, the more logical place to put it would be to put it somewhere in the south parking lot, that's just sort of a field, and you just bring the gate out somehow.
yeah, and they've already moved the gate once, that they kind of redid a lot of they redid that whole parking lot. So I remember me and you going there at our first Hollywood Nights event, and then us going back a couple of years later. And they upgraded a whole lot, especially with the gate and where you enter, and how
Right.
you get to was it Hog Wild? What is this place? What is that right called?
Steel Hog, yeah,
Steel
it's
Hog.
like it's kind of weird. It's like it's like Steel Hog is the ride that if you were building Indiana Beach and Roller Coaster Tycoon, it's like ah crap, I gotta buy a plot of land so I can build this ride, and it's kind of like just sticking out off to the side.
So would this be as big about as would you say it would be as big as Steel Hog? Probably.
As far as land goes,
Yeah.
oh, it's bigger than Steel Hog.
Oh, well, that's a real.
Because I'm using I have a Q-tip here. I'm kind of using the Q-tip as my scale. So that's 50 feet.
Because you really
So
want this to be a
50,
centerpiece of what you
100,
have too.
150. Yeah, I would say it looks like Steel Hog is somewhere between like 150 and 175 feet long. So the plot of land that you would need in the shorter dimension for this ride is slightly smaller than how long Steel Hog is in the width wise. It looks like Steel Hog is about 125 to 150 feet long, and this ride is 127 feet wide.
Yeah.
So I mean it's bigger than Steel Hog, I would say by about I would say it's 50% larger.
Okay. Well, it'll be
So
interesting to see.
if you put the bottom right corner of this ride where the bottom right corner of Steel Hog is, I think your top left corner is probably going to be somewhere. Yeah, I'm assuming you're looking at Google Maps.
Yeah.
I'm assuming your top left corner is going to be somewhere in that weird trapezoidal shaped piece of grass just below East Indiana Beach Road.
Hmm.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
I think that parking lot to the right of Steel Hog, I think it's about as wide as that parking lot and maybe about as tall as it,
Hmm.
which maybe they just get rid of that parking lot and put it right there and plunk it down right there.
Yeah, and parking, because parking's weird at that place anyway, that they have all that parking out if you go further down south in the grass lot, and that's where most of the people park anyway, up until
Yeah.
a few years ago. But now a lot of people, it's just how busy does the park get? I don't know that answer.
Well,
Um,
the Friday of Hollywood Nights, it might be quite busy.
Well, yeah, this year it might be.
I
So
don't know.
this is really exciting because I know a lot of people, like I said, to get back to the ride itself, a lot of people say that this is a really good one. And it looks like Indiana Beach. Now, I said at the beginning, I said, people were like rumoring, people were sending me text messages about what Indiana Beach was going to do for 2021. And really everything that I heard up until this point was kind of like, I don't know if that gets me down to the park. But I'll say this, Danny, this decision to bring this ride, a ride that I wanted to ride when I went to Mexico City, bringing this ride to Indiana Beach makes me buy at least one ticket that I'm going to go and
Yeah.
ride this ride. I don't know if this is enough for me to get there every year, but this is a ride that I really want to
Gonna get me
ride.
there at least one more time.
It gets me there one more time, and I'm excitedly going. It's not like I'm just going for credit. This is something pretty cool. This is something unique, and this is something that I think a lot of people are going to be looking forward to actually riding. Right?
I think so. I mean, if rides like now I haven't ridden Mindbender, but if rides like Olympia Looping, and I mean you even think about the Georgia Mindbender and Shockwave at Over Texas, I mean, Olympia Looping of the rides I've been on is certainly the best comparison, and probably Colossus and also Laser. But those were good rides. I mean, they're older rides and they're classic rides, if you will. But those are good rides. They're intense rides. That's classic Schwarzkopf. All hail Anton if there ever was one. I'm excited about this, and now Indiana Beach. Indiana Beach wasn't on my radar. It was kind of one of those where Cornball's really good and Lost Coaster is really good. But do I want to buy a ticket to just ride those rides again? Maybe, but maybe once only every 4 or 5 years, if that. But now I've got a good reason to go back to Indiana Beach as soon as I possibly can.
It's just interesting because like one coaster like changes the perception of this park, whereas it was right on that borderline, and now it's kind of like if this all goes smooth, and I don't know if that's a guarantee either, that the refurb goes smooth, that the new trains go smooth, that
Good
everything
point.
falls into line. So hopefully
Well,
this
they
happens.
probably got it on the cheap because La Feria wasn't going to reopen it.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully all of the refurb goes well. And now you're talking about a park that has a pretty nice collection. You got Tiger, you got this triple loop, you've got Cornball, you've got Lost Coaster, a unique collection too, added into some classic experiences like their dark ride, like their fascination parlor. And boy, are you talking about something. Whereas Kennywood is kind of like distancing itself and getting rid of a whole bunch of classic rides. Here we have Indiana Beach kind of embracing that. And I almost think that that's exactly what Indiana Beach should do, that they're never going to have a hyper coaster. They're never going to have, you know, a major big steel coaster. So going this classic road is, I think, exactly what that park should do, and embrace that history, embrace that classic nature, and maybe spruce up the place a little bit too along the way, you know.
Yeah, I mean, somehow this ride definitely seems to fit Indiana Beach.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited by that. I'm also excited by this next thing. Let's show some products here, Danny.
Uh-oh.
So we got some new poster prints that are going into the store very soon here. So you know, just to take a look here, we got a few new ones. We got a wild eagle.
That's an excellent picture, right?
It's an excellent picture that you took here. We got a little, and these are all part of our art print series. So they do have some artistic, you know.
That's an excellent picture there.
You know, another one that's done by Danny Miller. These are not photos; these are like painting app things. This one might be the coolest one out of this group.
That's an excellent picture right there.
A little demon action there with the demon eyes in the background. That's always cool. And then this one, very for the you know, for the enthusiasts, a little Dominator there. And this was when Dominator was sitting out in the parking lot, taken apart. So that's how we got that wonderful picture of, like,
it's a very nice picture there. I didn't take it, but it's very nice.
You didn't take that one. But those will be in the shop very soon. You can add those into a 3-pack of any of the different art prints we have. Those are the glossy versions. You can also get the matte versions that are suitable for framing. So you know, that's all we have for tonight, Danny. So as always, I am Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Danny Miller, home for the holidays in Schnecksville, Pennsylvania.
Right on, Ride Warriors.
Thrilling32.com. Vote now.
Vote now.